Anime isn't just about heroes. It's about the rivals who push them beyond their limits. The battles that weren't just about strength, but about pride, destiny, ideology, and obsession. From brothers turned enemies to minds locked in a deadly game, these rivalries didn't just shape characters. They defined anime history. These are the greatest rivals anime has ever seen. Naruto Uzumaki versus Sasuke Uchiha. Two brothers, one dream, and a destiny written in blood. Goku versus Vegeta. A rivalry that turned pride into power. Luffy versus Blackbeard. Same dream, completely opposite souls. Light Yagami versus L. This wasn't a fight of fists. It was a war of minds. Ichigo Kurosaki versus Ulquiorra. Hope faced despair and barely survived. Gojo Satoru versus Sukuna. The strongest sorcerer versus the king of curses. Levi Ackerman versus Zeke Yeager. Pure rage turned into absolute execution. Eren Yeager versus Reiner Braun. Two soldiers, crushed by the same war. Yusuke Urameshi versus Toguro. Strength demanded a price, and Yusuke paid it. Edward Elric versus Father. A human who rejected godhood, against a god who rejected humanity. Ash Ketchum versus Gary Oak. From childhood taunts to ultimate respect. Gun Freaks versus Hisoka. Innocence hunted by obsession. Killua versus Illumi. A brother fighting chains made of fear. Spike Spiegel versus Vicious. The past always comes back with a gun. Kaneki Ken versus Arima Kishu. A monster born by the hand of death. Thorfinn versus Askeladd. Hatred became the teacher. Revenge became the prison. Tanjiro Kamado versus Muzan. Kindness stood against pure evil. Saitama versus Garo. A hero who felt nothing versus a villain who felt everything. Alucard versus Anderson. Immortality challenged by absolute faith. Rei Kiriyama versus Suya Tuji. Silence spoke louder than words. Asta versus Yuno. Two paths, one crown. Denji versus Katana Man. Pain taught Denji how cruel the world really is. Gintoki versus Takasugi. Friends broken by the same revolution. Megumi Fushiguro versus Toji Fushiguro. A son fighting the shadow of his own blood. Subaru Natsuki versus Roswell. Manipulation versus suffering. Inuyasha versus Sesshomaru. Half-blood loyalty versus pure-blood pride. Jotaro Kujo versus Dio Brando. Time itself wasn't safe anymore. Hinata versus Kageyama. Talent met hunger, and volleyball changed forever. Ryu versus Akuma. Power without control is just destruction. Kirito versus Kayaba Akihiko. A game that trapped lives and rewrote reality.